What is good, everybody? Hello. Juliana Page here. I am so excited to share this topic with you. I think it's going to be a fun one, but a deep one at the same time, which I think sometimes we need that. It's like the visual that I have for this is like when you put dog's medicine in peanut butter or something, right? Like you gotta, not that you sugarcoat anything, because I'm not about that, but sometimes you got to make it an easier pill to swallow, so to speak, right? So I'm going to take some truth and make it a little bit easier to swallow on today. That is my agenda if I have one. So we're going to keep it real, but we're going to keep it fun and lighthearted as well so that you can hear it, you can receive it, and you can digest it and apply it, which is the best part. So I was thinking about how, to some degree, we're all in the fiction business, right? Like we are in the business of making things up, right? We do it all day, every day, right? Like just take 5, step back for a second, and picture all of the things that you're thinking through your head all day, right? A lot of it, we're making up these stories, or we've got this content, we've got this stuff going on, but is it true? Where did it come from, right? Like what is that? And a lot of times we think of worst case scenarios. We think that if this happens and then this happens and if that happens, then I need to do this. And we just create these wild movies in our mind, right? Like they just go in our head all day and we're just taking ourselves through this, right? And depending on the thought, we have a particular feeling that follows, and then we usually behave some kind of way. Right? Our mood can shift just because we played out a movie in our head pretty instantaneously too. So with that, and I have a background in storytelling to some degree. So what I love about it is my undergrad was in journalism. So I love that journalism originally was designed to inform the public good. That was the original intent, right? But there's so much. We had to do so many different research papers and a lot of classes to break down the context of what was being revealed. Like, is this moral? Is this actually informing the public good? And case studies, right? Because how do you monitor that, right? And now you see where the media is. It's all about reactions, right? And getting ratings and all that kind of stuff. So it is not necessarily about informing the public good anymore. However, I liked the heart behind it and the intention behind it. And then I went to grad school for film production. And what I loved about that was it felt like it was a psychology degree. Honestly, it felt like the best information that I could engage with, because it really was talking about storytelling, the arc of a story, character development, motivation, and why people do things. So kind of like forensics a little bit. And the psychology, like what would motivate a person to do this? Or if you really had to embody that person or put yourself in another person's shoes and see them through this story, what would that look like? And whether you're writing, whether you're directing, whether you're even in production, you experience the fullness of all these aspects playing out. So it's really, really neat. So at any rate, I have a taste of, and even as a coach, right, a professional coach, I have a taste of transformation and transforming stories. That is my jam. That is how I'm wired. I believe that God is a strategist, right? And he's given me a gifting to also really operate with a lot of practical wisdom. So that's really what I love to do. I believe that sometimes when you just get that perspective shift, everything can change. So with that, when we're talking about the fiction biz, and if you are spending a majority of your time watching or experiencing movies in your mind that are not the outcome that you want, pause, right? I like to say stop, drop, and pray. Always a good thing. But make it work for you, right? Like you're going to spend all of this energy playing out scenarios, at least play out scenarios that have positive outcomes. Like help yourself out here. If you're already in the fiction biz, if you're already making it up, if you already don't really know the unknowns, right? And you're playing out different options, at least make one of them one that works for you, right? Because what do you really want to get better at? Do you want to get really, really good at worrying? Do you really want to get good at just living in anxiety? Do you really want to get good at projecting all of these worst case scenarios? Because at the root of that, I've had to invite myself to explore this. At the root of that, for me, has been distrust. I'm not aligned with the core belief that God is good, that God is in control, that God works all things together for those that love him and that are called according to his purpose, that God delights in prospering his servant and the prosperity of his servant, right? I'm not aligned with that when I'm taking things into my own hands and trying to come up with scenarios that I think are best, right? I'm thinking and leaning on my own understanding. I'm navigating in a forceful or frantic or chaotic, stressed state, which is not with the influence of Holy Spirit. And I'm sort of getting off the path, right? And I'm going to have to deal with the consequence of that. And yes, God can bring me back, but what if I started with God and stayed on the path? Like the journey would be very, very different. Okay. So my first invitation when we're talking about if you're going to make it up, make it work for you or make it good. That's the first one. If you are in the fiction biz, like recognize that to some degree, we all make things up. We do. We do. So perfect the story that you want to tell, right? At least play out scenarios that are in your favor so that you can have a completely different life experience. Okay. That is super, super important. If you are in the habit and practice of making up all these scenarios that do not work for you at all, that stress you out and stress out everybody around you, perhaps you need to give yourself a promotion in the fiction biz and switch to a different genre. Okay? So that's the first one. Next one is a lot of times when we are making things up, we compare ourselves to other people. Like to some degree, social media makes it really easy to fall into covetousness, right? Where we have a strong envy or a strong desire for what other people have, particularly material possessions. Okay. So if you're on social media for too long, you could start comparing yourself to how that person looks or the car that they're driving or the home that they live in or the amount of kids that they have or the type of career that they're operating in, whatever it happens to be. You can very quickly, you're exposing yourself to that. And if you're not guarding your heart, these messages of jealousy and of covetousness and of envy and resentment and bitterness in some kind of way can start forming, and they're going to start subtle, right? Kind of very snake-like. Okay. So think about that. Now, if you have a habit of doing that, one, I would say put boundaries around social media, and specifically when you wake up in the morning, set your phone across the room. Like set an alarm on your phone and set it across the room and just use it as an alarm. Okay. But do not get on social media the first thing when you wake up in the morning, because think about this. From the minute you wake up in the morning, you start inundating yourself with information and you don't even know your own thoughts. You're just giving yourself thoughts and experiences from social media. Then you might turn on the radio, you might turn on the news, you might turn on something, right? And you have no clue how to really even discern God's voice in the midst of all that chaos. You probably don't even know where you're at. And now you're just being exposed to the mood and the atmosphere of the world. So how in the heck can you stay aligned and in tune with your own rhythm when you start inundating yourself with all this information? Especially first thing in the morning. That is not how you want to start your day. So that's just a tip. You're welcome. But imagine, this is what I'm going to invite you to do. If you recognize, and just be radically honest, if you recognize that you get on social media and you are judging or you're comparing yourself to other people, imagine what comes with that. Imagine what he or she had to give up to have that. Imagine what it takes to steward that well. Because a lot of times what we do is we just picture somebody with something, right? Like social media makes that easy. Here's a photo of what's going on in this person's life. And then we make a story about that, right? Oh, she must blah, 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 or he must blah, 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 whatever it is. Like we fill in people's gaps. We fill in their blanks for them. And you never want to do that, because what you're leaving out the sacrifices they've made. You're leaving out the sleepless nights. You're leaving out just so many different things that happen behind the scenes that maybe you're not even ready for. So for example, let's say it's you want to have, you want to make your first million, let's say, right? Maybe you're not even ready for that yet. Maybe you're not even taking care of what's in your current possession, right? And if that happened to you, it would crush you. Like you just would not be ready for it. And maybe you're idolizing somebody who's, a visionary and got all this great work going on, but maybe you're not seeing what's going on in their life or in their health or with their family or these other things that they've had to give up in order to be in that position or that state. Like we're just not seeing what people battle with, what people fight behind the scenes. We're seeing how good it looks on the outside. So just if you're going to go down that path, like help yourself out by imagining what comes with that or what came with that or the sacrifices that were connected to that or what he or she had to give up or what it takes to sustain that level or the level of responsibility, the level of character, right? How much time, the investment, like picture that. Because if you're somebody that just wants to be relatively content, maybe some of these places aren't for you. And one of the biggest things to know is what your role is. It's what your role is, right? There's the parable of the talents in the word. And the most important thing is to work what's in your hand and what God has given you and multiply that. And you can't do that when you're caught up with what all these other people have. Like you are different for a reason. You've been given certain things for a reason. You have your own path to walk out, and it's going to work and unfold well unless you start getting into other people's business. Like you've got to set your mind and keep it set. And the gate or the way is narrow. It's not wide. So you've just got to stay focused and run your race specifically. So if you're going down that path, how you can get out very quickly is also remind yourself of what it takes and what comes with that. Okay. And then the last thing that I would say is that any moment of your life can be a line in the sand moment or a pivotal moment or a major decision moment. Like I'm no longer going to think these thoughts. I'm no longer going to speak that way. I'm no longer going to hang on to these feelings of bitterness, of resentment, of unforgiveness, of just ugliness. I'm no longer going to carry that in my heart. I'm going to let these people off the hook. I'm no longer going to pretend that I am somebody that I'm not. I'm no longer going to work so hard to make other people happy at my own expense. I'm no longer going to hide the most authentic parts of me. I'm no longer going to be satisfied not sharing my voice. I'm no longer going to play small when I was never put here for that, right? Like whatever it is for you, you can make this line in the sand. Like I'm no longer going to settle for just enough and for just getting by when I've been called to greater. I'm no longer going to live unintentionally or take my life for granted. I mean, this could be deep stuff, but like any moment of your life can be that. A lot of times I experience, and I've been there, so I can say this, that we can go through things and we can just wait for a sign. We can wait for the right moment. We can wait for the right day. We can wait for when we think we're ready. And you never feel entirely ready. And that's part of it because God qualifies those that he's called. So you're not going to necessarily feel qualified, right? Or you can't flow in your anointing apart from God. Your connection to God is what makes that flow, right? So it's really, really important to recognize that you can live these powerful moments one day at a time and one moment at a time. And it's what you really practice and repeat that you get stronger at. So do you want to get strong at making excuses? Do you want to get stronger at self-limiting beliefs? Do you want to get stronger at judging and comparing yourself to other people? Do you want to get stronger at self-hate and self-mutilation and trying to change and morph yourself to please other people in the outside world that doesn't necessarily care about you? Do you want to spend all your time, energy, and emotion on things other than what you're called to? Like, These are very real questions, but sometimes when we're just in the go mode and in the hustle mode and like the hashtag like hustle mode, like whatever, when we're out there doing these things, we don't get still enough to recognize our own cray, right? And when you actually get still, which is part of why we resist it, because we don't want to come into that radical accountability or that radical responsibility, but your life, it's not a cute little meme or just like a Pinterest screenshot. Like your life is literally up to you. You are entirely up to you, right? How you decide to show up each day, what you choose and who you choose to partner with each day, what you align with each day, right? That is entirely up to you. At the end of the day, right? Like, so if we choose to stay in frustration and stress and overwhelm, we're choosing it. When we've been told joy, the joy of the Lord is your strength, like which one do you want to practice here? Okay, I understand you can recognize this, but I have something for you to choose, which will help you manage that well, right? Or peace. We have shoes of peace, right? The full armor of God. We have shoes of peace for a reason. If you don't have peace, don't keep moving, right? When you have peace, then move. Huge lesson. So we're given so much wisdom if we choose to apply it. And that's why it's daily bread, in my opinion. I without spiritual wisdom, without understanding, that's what I need. I don't need more information. I don't need more hustle. I don't need more opinions. I don't need more distractions. I need understanding. I need wisdom. I need a greater revelation and understanding of who God is, of who I am connected to God, and what God has for me to do right now here in this season, right? And when I get distracted and all that other stuff, I mess it up. If it's up to me, I'm going to mess it up. Like I've already seen that movie before. I know that, right? So why not play it out differently, right? So really, really take that to heart, that any moment can be a pivotal line in the sand moment for you, where, you know what? This is the way. I'm going to walk in it. And there's no looking back. And I'm not even going to freak out because I'm not going back. Because I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, and I choose to walk this path. With me? So the other point that I want to make when it comes to possibly comparing yourself to other people is it's really a reflection of what's possible. And so you really want to be grateful and celebrate those people, because here's the thing. If you've never seen something done before, the journey is going to be intimidating and it's going to be hard and you're going to feel vulnerable, right? Navigating a lot of unknowns. There's going to be questions. There's going to be insecurities that come up out of our own human nature. There's going to be really interesting challenges. There's going to be tests. Like God tests our heart quite a bit, right? So something to keep in mind is that whoever you're looking at, they are reflecting what's possible. And what you can do is encourage these people, but keep putting in your reps on your own journey, okay? And really find it, if you can, ways to celebrate them versus resent them. Because if you've done this before, you know how hard it is. If you've never seen a healthy relationship, healing yourself so that you can be in one is a very interesting journey and a very difficult journey and a very vulnerable journey, right? If you have never run your own business and you haven't seen that done in your family, stepping out into that known, it's terrifying, right? And you're going to question, am I equipped? Can I do this? And so when you see people killing it, like celebrate them because they're showing you what's possible. And that's no easy feat. Like if you know, like if you have ever put work into something, you see what it takes and what it requires. And so you celebrate that work, you encourage that work, you cheer that person on, and you remember that they're showing you it's possible. And that should encourage your spirit to keep showing up, to keep putting in work. It's possible, right? And it's probably going to look different for you, but you can still celebrate people without resenting yourself or comparing them, or even, making up stories about what you think it's like. Okay. So here's a couple of reminders, just real quick to kind of tie this back together. If you're going to make it up, make it good. Okay. This is the message on today. So, first thing, if you're in the fiction biz, make sure that one of the stories that you're making up is working in your favor and it has a positive outcome. Pay attention to really what you want to get good at. If you really want to keep telling yourself stories that have really bad endings, don't be surprised when your life starts looking like that. Okay? So if you're in the fiction biz, make it work for you. That's number one. Number two, if you are comparing yourself to other people, which is something that can be easy to do, which is why we're now seeing social media detoxes and things like that becoming more common, because it's an addiction. It gives us adrenaline hits. So if you need to do things like that, absolutely, but set boundaries and do things that help you. But when you are potentially comparing yourself to other people, maybe not even intentionally, but when you're doing that, even just exposure sometimes creates that dissonance in your soul. Imagine what came with that. Imagine what it took. Imagine the sacrifices. Imagine the battles behind the scenes. If you're going to imagine how good it is, imagine the flip side too. Make sure that you've got a full story and also recognize that you're making it up, okay? That you don't know the whole story. Even take yourself for an example. When you have your own account, how much information are you actually sharing? How much do people actually know about you? How much are you not sharing? Probably a majority of your story. So think about that before you go down the path of making somebody else's story make sense to you. Spend more time on your story. Okay, that's number two. And then number three is keep in mind that any moment of your life can be a pivotal moment. Any moment can be a line in the sand moment. Any moment you can choose to level up. You can choose to live according to the morals, the standards that you're called to. You can choose to set healthy boundaries. You can choose to remove people from your life. You can choose to make better habits. You can choose to hire people to keep you accountable. You can choose to hire a coach to work with you to break through things. You can choose to become who you know that you've been created to be and take the steps of obedience that you're led to take. Take the inspired actions. One day at a time, one moment at a time. You can do that. Okay? So hopefully this message blessed you. I think sometimes we need some context, and it just helps when you can laugh at yourself a little bit and not try to guilt, shame, or condemn yourself, because that's not of God, right? But get honest, because there's so much healing and freedom and honest, and then take the next steps. You can't just be conscious and expect a new life. It's one thing to be aware. It's another thing to be aware and do something about it. Okay? And so the first thing that I would recommend is always take it before God so that he can guide and establish your steps and that he can align you. He's the best chiropractor. All right? All right, guys. Okay, a couple of things to support you if this is resonating with you. I have a self-mastery course over on julianapage.com. It is one, I've been really interested in this topic since I was, probably in my early teens, like 13 for sure. I had gone on a retreat my freshman year of college, and it was called a Know Thyself retreat. And ever since then, that has been such a focus for me. So it is a really great course that helps you really focus on every life area that you can think of and how you can really master your will to really unleash your potential in all these areas. It's powerful. And there's a lot of questions that really help you do this inner work that we often don't make time for. So that's one of the coolest things about it, is that it's a 6-week guided course where it gives you the structure to set time in your schedule to do the work, and to really move forward with so much more clarity and confidence and authority, and really step into that next thing for you, whatever that happens to be. So that is a really powerful course that you can go check out. If you want more information, my contact information is over on that site too, so you can feel free to reach out to me. And what else? Oh, there are coaching programs available as well. One of my passions is to activate people into their purpose and help them launch their spirit-led business, whether that's ministry, whether that's an actual entrepreneurial venture, whether that is a family-owned business, whatever it happens to be, that marketplace thing that they've been called to, because we need more light in the world doing those things. So if that is of interest to you, make sure that you go check out julianapage.com. And if this is a message or this kind of content is something that is speaking to your soul and is inspiring you, then you can also subscribe. Be sure to do that. I love to see who this is really speaking to and helping, and I love connecting with you. So make sure to do that. But you can also tune into the Spirit-Filled Real Talk podcast with Juliana. It's every Saturday, and it's usually a topic of some kind, backed with the word and practical wisdom that you can just integrate into your lifestyle. So I call it soul fitness. Whether it's your mind, your emotions, your will, and your willpower, it will work you out. Okay? All right, guys, that's all I got for you. But until next time, stay blessed. Bye.